All right, so hello everyone. Welcome to week 5. I do apologize about yesterday. I was traveling and my flight plans changed, so hopefully I'll get this video out as soon as possible. As soon as the link is provided, I'll upload it for you to see. Okay, so this is week 5, and we're going to be talking about the second activity. But before I move on, I do want to talk a little bit about assignment 2. So assignment 2 is due tonight. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd. So it is due tonight. If you have any questions, please send me out an email. Also, you can contact me and we can set up a quick office hours today. I'll be available starting around 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So if you have any questions, you can go ahead and join then. But if anything, we could schedule a quick time to meet. Hi, Julie. Thank you for joining. All right, so it going over week 5, we're going to be going over a second activity, and this is in preparation for assignment 3. In assignment 3, we're going to get the heart rate button working, and it's going to open a second activity. So that's where the second activity comes from. There's week 5 discussions. There is the assignment 3 instructions. These have been updated, so if you downloaded the previous ones, please do check out the new one. The only update I'm making there is to make sure that you do include a video. It makes grading easier. Though I do download every single assignment and I go over it, but it's easier to just go ahead and check the code than having to run the whole application and loading it. So just so you know. Okay. And then I have also uploaded the geo quiz for chapter 7. So that's the chapter in the book. If you're following the Android Studio Big Ranch or Nerd book, it's chapter 7 of that book. Okay. All right. Any questions? No. Okay, so if no questions, then I will go directly to the lecture. And at the end of the lecture, I will be going over assignment 3, and I did upload a few slides for assignment 3 hints. So I broke it down, but I'll talk about that at the end of the lecture. Okay. Okay. So what is the goal for this chapter, chapter 7, and also for our assignment, is to start one other activity from a running activity. So that is, if you're going through the geo quiz, if you're going to be adding another button that shows the answer, and this show answer button will open a new activity, and that is the cheating activity, right? So once you get there, and you press on cheat, it's going to tell you cheating is wrong, which is a toast, right? We're talking about the geo quiz. This is just a memorization quiz for you to remember different capitals of different countries. All right, so it's supposed to be passing data between the parent, so that's the starting activity, and the child, that is the started activity. So this right here is the parents called the starting, and this is the started. Okay. So let's see, second. All right. So here we're gonna have to start a second activity. And this one, when we create a new activity, we're also going to be creating a new layout file. So remember, that's the XML file that we have in the resources layout folders. And so for the geo quiz, we start a new file for cheat activity, and then we create a new activity subclass called cheat activity. We declare this cheat activity in the Android manifest XML file. We create an intent object specifying the activity to start, and we pass that intent object to a method that is able to start the activity. So this is the overall process on just starting a second activity. So, and I'll go over it with the GeoQuiz example. And for this time, I know there are some of us that aren't able to open up GeoQuiz. So what I've done is I have downloaded the GeoQuiz from D2L, and I clicked on run, and you'll see that there's an error. So I'll show you how to clear that error to get the GeoQuiz to run. All right, so um, adding new values to the resource value string folder or string file. So same thing. We're just going to be adding to that assignment 2 that we have been working with. So uh, I believe almost everyone who turned it in got it to work. There may be a couple that still working on it, but that's okay. So we need to make sure that assignment 2 is working. Okay. All right. So then um, we have here string name, and then oh sorry, we're just adding new strings. So anything you see in blue text is new information that we're adding to existing files. So to create a new activity, and we've done this where we created a new file, Kotlin the view model. So it's pretty much the same idea. So we're gonna go into new, right click the new, and then we're gonna do activity, and then we're gonna add an empty views activity as well. Okay. So it's gonna take us to a screen like this. The activity name, we need to make sure to check the generated layout file, and then normally it's gonna fill it out for us, and if not, we usually take the second part. So in this case, activity and everything in lowercase, and then underscore, and then the first part of the name, which is cheat, all in undercase. Okay. Package name stays the same as your app, and then make sure Kotlin is the source language. Now, so a diagram for the layout, in this case for the cheat activity, and this is exactly the same thing that we would for a normal layout file. In here, though, we have tools, context. We have to add. Oh, sorry. This will be generated on its own, so you don't have to worry about this. But you can change the linear layout if it comes with. I don't remember what the layout as default comes for the new layout files that are created. But pretty much same idea. In this case, for this cheat activity, there's linear layout with the text view, 2 text views, and a button. Okay. And here, again, same idea. Uh, this is just more code, the actual code versus the layout. Okay. But same thing that you've been doing before, you're gonna do it again with the buttons when you create your buttons and when you have your text edits. Okay. Now, there's a few ways to preview or to view your XML files. So one of them is that you can actually rotate the screen from portrait to landscape, and this is just finding that icon that has the small phone icon with arrows, just like you would in when you're running the emulator. So how do we declare activities in the manifest? So in here, we are going to go inside of the Android manifest XML file, and then we're just going to go ahead and include the activity Android name, cheat activity in this case, or whatever name of the activity it is. Okay, and then we close it with the activity. All right, so this is different from the activity Android name, and then this is the main activity. Okay, so that's how we were just going to add a new one. In this case, it would be like the heart rate activity. All right, so adding a cheat button, in this case to the activity main, same idea as before. We're going to add a button, and then we can go ahead and make edits and configure those buttons. Now, how do we wire the cheat sheet? So this is where it's more important, where it's new concept, okay? Or not a new concept, but same idea, but the things that matter for right now that might be different. Okay. So instead of the main activity class, we're gonna still be binding. Okay, so we're gonna do binding dot, and then we're gonna do, in this case for us it would be the heart rate button, and then set on click listener, same thing, right? Because of that binding, we enable that binding from assignment 2, and then we're gonna tell it to start in our case it would be the heart rate activity. So then we have the intent class. So this is a concept, right? And this new concept is how we're going to go ahead and be switching from one class to from one activity to another. So intents are data structures or messaging objects that specify an action to be performed and the data to operate on. So pretty much they're the messaging object used to request an action from another app component. So for example, in our case, when we have the VMI view model, we press that button, we're going to be using an intent, the heart rate button, we're going to be using an intent to open up the heart rate activity. So in this case, talking from one app component, in this case, the main activity, to a second activity, which is a heart rate. So in here, another way in which we can use the intent class would be to open the camera, to share text, and then again, right, to move from one activity to another. This is what we're going to be doing. So switching from the main activity class to the heart rate the heart rate. So yeah, the main activity to the heart rate activity. Okay, so that's the key here. Intent class. That's what we're going to be using. So there's different types of intents. There is the explicit intent, and this one you specify the exact activity or the component. So we can use something like a value intent and then equals to intent, and then in this case this, right? So this activity, and then where to go, right? So go from this activity to the second activity class. In this case, class at Java. Okay. So far as we don't have, wait, actually we might. Okay, so from this activity to go to the second activity, and then we go ahead and do calling the start activity method, and then intent, which is the value that we had here. We're here again. We're just putting a value so that we don't have to write all this inside of this parentheses here. But you don't need that value, just for clearness, to keep things tidy. Okay. And then so the explicit intent, again, you specify the exact activity or the component versus the implicit intent. And there's a whole chapter or a whole module that talks about implicit intents, okay? But we're not going to talk about it in this module, rather in the future module. But implicit intent, you pretty much ask the system to find the best app to handle that action. So explicit, you explicitly say what to do or what activity or component to use, versus implicit, you let the system decide what is the best app. So there's a question here. It says, so we're just calling this activity and keeping the activity in a separate file like we did? Yes, exactly. So yes, we're going to be creating actually two new files. So we're going to be having the heart rate activity and the heart rate activity view model. So two new files that we're going to be creating, exactly the same way that we did the view model, but instead two more. Okay, good question. All right. So some of the key properties of intents. Okay, so the action. So what do you want? What do you want done? So what do we need to do? So in here we have something like, let's go ahead and send an action, or let's go ahead and view an action. So then we have the data. So these are the key properties. What's going to go inside of how we're going to be calling this, okay? So what do we operate on? For example, the URL of an image or a web page. Okay, or it might be, in this case, passing variables for us. Okay, passing information, the data that we need. In this case, it would be our heart rate value or range for the activity, and then the extras, right? So additional key value pairs, we could just put intent dot put extra, and then here, for example, we can go ahead and add something into the memory. In this case, username, we're going to be adding. If we had like a table, it would be Jane Doe. Adding that username, or adding whether it's a new column or the row, okay, of a table or something like that. So how does it communicate? We have a component. In this case, it would be our main activity, our BMI activity, okay? It talks to the operating system, and then the operating system talks to the other activity, in this case our second activity, which is a hard rate. So the OS acts as the middleman to deliver the intents. Okay. So then we have the constructor of how to do this, right? We have intent, we have a package context, and then the context, comma, and then the class. Okay, and we specify what class. And there's an example, or I'll show you an example for the geo quiz. All right, so then we have the context, right? So in here, what is the context? The context tells the Android or the activity manager in this case. Remember, that's the activity manager is the one that handles the processes for Android in its own, right? Manages the activities, actions, and what's going on. So the activity manager. So context tells the activity manager where to find the components of your apps or your apps package. Okay, so that's the context. So it tells you where is it. Okay, where to find it. And then the class question here tells the Android or whatever class you pick, right? Tells the Android activity manager what to start. So the target activity. So in here, you would have to say where to find the activity. Where to find the apps package, and this is the name of that activity. So here's a diagram of what I just explained. So you have your activity. So this is your application, and we're telling it to start an intent. So it goes to the Android activity manager, and then the activity manager goes ahead and does that action. So it starts that intent that or that activity that we needed to start. So yes, it does go from your activity, talks to the Android OS, even if it's in the same application. Okay, so in your application, go to the activity manager opens that second activity that's inside of your application. This is how it works. Okay. All right. So starting the cheat activity, and this is for the main activity Kotlin file. Okay, so this is the main activity class that you have. So we talked about the binding. So this is from back. You should have this already in your assignment too. And then we have the override function on creating. So remember that's part of the life cycle. And then we have it here. Okay, so we talked about this a few minutes ago, but binding, we're going to be binding calling that cheat button. We said on the click listener. And then in here, we're going to first go ahead and define our intent. So intent is, we're calling this intent, right? And we're saying from this activity, the one that we're here, this, go ahead and start the cheat activity class.java. Okay, so this is the cheat activity. Now, class.java, where do we get this, right? We're working with Kotlin. Well, Kotlin is our interface. So Kotlin actually works on Java. It's just that the Kotlin makes it easier for us to call in libraries that are already there that we don't have to do with Java. So yes, you're still calling that class.java there. Okay, so in here, we're just specifying that second activity that we're going to be open. In our case, is the hard rate activity. And then we're just going to call in the method start activity intent. And that's all that needs to be done for your for the activity manager to go ahead and open that second activity once you click on that button. Okay. Any questions here? So this is important. This is like how you're gonna get to switch. You're gonna switch from one activity to the other. Okay. All right, so how to conduct conversations between main activity and cheat activity. So we talked about how we switch from one activity to another, but how are we going to keep the conversation? How is the cheat activity know what to do? And how is that main activity going to know if the user cheated? All right, so the main activity tells whether the answer is true. So if the answer is true, it's going to, whether the answer is true. And what we mean with this is, was the button clicked? If the button was clicked, then it's a true value, and then it takes us to the cheat activity. And then the cheat activity is, if you click on the cheat button, is going to automatically going to send a message over to the main activity once you go back to let the main activity know that the cheat button was clicked. In this case, that the user cheated. Okay. So talking a little bit about the intent extras, when starting a new activity, we can send some information from one current, can we send information from the current activity to the uh, to the to be started activity? Yes, we can. Okay. So in this case, can we send information from the main activity to the second activity? Yes, we can. Okay. We put that additional information to associate with intent sent in a new activity, and the added data is treated as a key value pair. Okay, so remember back here, we're treating as true, and over here we're going to treat it as a key value. In this case, yes, the user cheated. So we're just going to say if the user cheated, then we're going to pass that value user cheated. We're not going to pass other information other than user cheated, and then here the value is true. Okay, so that's a key value pair. That's all we're sending. Okay. So settings in the setting the extra attribute comes in several forms depending on the type involved. So we can put in here, again, we're calling the put extra. Uh, we can put the name, which is the name, and here the string that we want to name this, and then the value, and this would be in Boolean. Okay. So in here, going back to talking about the GeoQuiz. So we have the main activity, and the button was pressed to go into the cheat activity. So here we start the activity intent. Now the intent is carrying the key value pairs. First, in case the component is the cheat activity, right? To say go ahead and the cheat activity was pressed, so go ahead and open that cheat activity uh, class. Okay, so then, or yeah, a class. So then the other thing that goes in here is that key value, in this case extra, your extra answer is true. So this is, it's a string here that's going through, or a key value, right? And then it's going to go ahead and send it to the activity manager. The activity manager is going to receive the component extra answer is true. Okay, so that's the one that's going to go here. And then when the cheat activity talks back, it's going to send another value. Did I have? No, okay, I don't have another diagram, so I'm just going to talk about this one, right? So then what's going to happen when the cheat activity, we press the back arrow, it's going to talk to, and we're going to call an intent to go back to the Android, to the main activity here. So it's going to send the intent back to the activity manager, and is going to put an extra key value, in this case, whether uh, so pretty much cheated is true. So that's the key value that's going to put it. Now, if the button to cheat was not pressed, then it's gonna return it's gonna return a false button or nothing at all. Okay, so it depends on how we set it up. So in here, adding the extra constant. So to do that, we're gonna go outside here after the imports. We're gonna add a private constant value, and extra, in this case, extra answer is equal to whatever we specified. Okay, and then and we don't have to put all these answers true. We could just call it a variable. So then we have the companion, in this case, companion object. Uh, we have to declare this object. So we have a function. In this case, the new intent package context. Again, this is a context. The answer is true, is a Boolean value, and then intent. So we start a new intent here. We could put in a new actually line here. We're going to return intent package content cheat activity in class.java, and then dot apply, put an extra, in this case extra answer is true, and then answer is true would be that Boolean variable. Okay, so this is pretty much the I guess the example that you can use to do that for in our case. Okay, but instead of putting a value or a Boolean, we can actually declare or actually, yeah, we're gonna say yes. There's something in there for our case with the hard activity. There's a value that is there, and then we can go ahead and take that actual value that we're going to be storing for the heart rate. Okay, and so this is how it looks. So okay, so sorry, this is the cheat activity class. Okay, so this is what's going to go in the cheat activity class. Versus this is so this would be our heart rate class, in our case, the second activity, and this is going to be our main activity. So inside of this click listener, sorry, the cheat button, in our case, the heart rate button, we're going to be adding now in here the value answer is true for the quiz model for us, whether it's a heart rate is there, and then we're going to go ahead and add a second value. And again, this should have been a new line. Call activity new intent, and this at this comma main activity, if the answer is true, then we start or start activity intent. Okay, so these are the two things that should have been separated. Let me fix that now. Okay, and then okay, there we go. That's what it should look. Okay, so the two values, answer is true. That's our Boolean value here, and this is the intent. Okay, so all we have to do is specify it there. All right, so then using an extra, so going back to the cheat activity class here, we have this private variable, answer is true, and we originally set it equal to false. Then going back here into the override function, we have answer is true, then is equal to intent, get boolean extra, answer is true, comma, false. Okay. And yes, okay, so going back to show answer button. Okay, so if the answer button is click, all right, then we go ahead and show answer, that's a cheat button, is click, then we go ahead and display answer is true. All right, so then we display whatever the answer is. So answer text. Sorry. Okay, so here, sorry. So so when the button is clicked, right, we're gonna go ahead and call in the variable called answer text. Then when the answer is true, so we click on the actual button, then we're gonna get a string for true button. Okay, else we're gonna get the string for false button, and this is the key that's gonna be shown over to when we return to the main activity. Okay, and then binding answer. This is just to display the actual answer. I think that was there before. Okay, so it's just to display the actual answer, but here we are determining whether that button was pressed or not. So answer text, was it pressed or not? Okay. Now getting a result back from the child activity. So this is, we were in that cheat activity, and how are we going to pass that value over to the main activity to know what happened inside of the child activity? So when you want to hear back from the child activity, you register your main activity for an activity result. So before we had the start activity, let me see, where'd it go? So in here, right? So we had the cheat line. When that was pressed, then we would start the activity or start the intent. Now we're going to go ahead and register for the activity result. Okay, so we register for the activity result. And this function has two parameters. First one is the contract that defines input and output of the activity to start, and then lambda that is used to parse the output returned by the started activity. So there's an example here. So we're calling this method here register for activity result. And then in here, we're going to be using activity result contracts. And then we're going to start activity from result. Okay. and then we're going to go ahead and handle that result. And how do we do that? And this is, yeah, still part of the main activity. So, hold on, yeah, the main activity. And let me see what else we need to change here. Okay, so there's nothing here that's changed. Okay. Okay, so then sending the data back to the parent class activity. To do this, right, we have to go ahead and set the result and then use the result code integer, or we can also go ahead and pass that data. Okay, in this case, it would be the intent. So typically, the result code is one of the two predefined constants. The first one is result OK or result canceled. So result OK means that something actually happened, that in the activity, like an event happened, right? And the result cancel was we just went to that screen, but we didn't perform any action, so we just returned. Okay. So a result code is always returned to the parent if the child activity was started with the activity for result. If set result is not called, then when the user presses the back button, the parent will receive the activity result cancel. So pretty much that's the difference between these two. Okay. So in here we are in the cheat activity class. Inside of our set answer to show results, right? This one it was to give us that answer, or to put that extra and say the answer was shown. So we're gonna go ahead and set the result like we were starting the activity, but in this case we're gonna set result activity, and we're gonna say result was okay, and then we're gonna pass on the data. So here's what's going to happen, okay? So in the geo quiz, we present the cheat, so it takes us to that cheat, the cheat activity. And then there's a thing here, it says, are you sure you want to do this? If you don't click on the show answer and press back, right? Then it's gonna not show, it's gonna show result cancel, okay, instead of result okay. Okay. So here's a diagram of how that works. So we have the main activity, the user presses the cheat button, and we go ahead and in the intent, right, what's in there is a cheat activity, and extra answer is true. Takes it to the activity manager, which is Android operating system, and it takes the intent, opens up the cheat activity. This cheat activity, when the user presses the show answer, the set result intent is called. If the user presses the back button, in this case the user, if the user presses the back button, then it's gonna be different, okay? So in here after, so the user presses the show answer and then presses the back button. So in this case, they did press the cheat button, and then they press the back button. Because they did press the cheat button, when you press the back button, it's gonna take us back to the main activity. But with that, it's gonna give us the code result OK that tells us that yes, the cheat button was pressed, or the user did cheat. Okay, so that's um, the actual sequence of events here. So handling a result from the quiz view model. So in here, in the quiz view model, we add a new property to hold the value of cheat activity that the cheat activity is passing back. The user's cheat status is part of the use state, stashing the value in the quiz view model. Instead of the main activity means that the value persists across configuration changes rather than being destroyed with the activity. So in here, for the view model, we're going to be adding in here the constant value called is cheater key, and again this is, hold on, I need to fix this. Okay, So in here we have the class, and this class is called the quiz view model, and we're just adding that variable, and it says is a user cheater? Is he a cheater? The value. Then we're gonna get the save state handle, and this one is a cheater key. And so then we have to set the value as well as a cheater, and then the value. Okay. So now pulling out the data from the cheat launcher. So to do this, we're going to get another value called the cheat launcher. And this one is to register for the activity results. Remember, this is what the main activity needs in order to listen, right, to get information from that second activity. So register for activity results, and then the activity result contract, start activity for results, the result, okay? And then it gives us some logic here. So if the result is result okay, then we can go ahead and say okay, so then we have calling the quiz view model and look at the cheater, the result, and get the data. Okay. And so then this is the main activity. To what's in here. Okay, I think there's something there. Okay. So in here, there's a check answer function for the main activity, and we have a value called the correct answer. Oh, so I believe all these were there. Okay. Oh yeah. So what we're adding here, right? For the check answer button. So in here, we're going to go ahead and display the correct answer, and all we have to do is calling the quiz view model dot and then current question answer. And what we're going to get also is a message ID. So this is pretty much the we're going to be displaying a toast and let them know, like a judgment toast is what it's called, to say, you know, it's not good to cheat, pretty much. So all this to say that. And so with this, it's going to display the actual message, the correct answer, as well as a toast that is not good to cheat. Okay, so let me see. I think I have it here. We'll run the code right now to see how that looks. So that is it, as in part of the content of how we're going to get assignment 3 started and going. So then, talking a little bit about assignment 3. So for assignment 3, what you'll build, so the main activity is the BMI screen. And in here, we have the inputs, so this should be working now. We have weight, height, and then we calculate clear and the calculate heart rate. And then we're using the BMI view model to keep the state across rotation so that your information doesn't disappear. Now this is starting from assignment 3. When we click on the heart rate activity, a button is going to take us to a second screen. So this is your second activity. We're going to have an input age, and the buttons calculate and clear. Actually, I should. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is how, when you click on the heart rate, this is how it should look, the screen. Asking for the age, and then the calculate and the clear button. And then from here, we also have to have two text displays. The first one is shows your maximum heart rate and your target range. Okay, so the maximum heart rate in this case would be just 220 minus your age or whatever age you put in there, and then that's just whatever that is, right? And the target, all we have to do is get the maximum and multiply it times 0.5 to get that 100, and multiply it times 0.8 to get that 170. So that's the range. So sorry, 85. So 50 right? So 50% of 200 is 100, and 85% of 200 is 170. So that's how we're going to calculate the range here. Okay, so maximum and the target. All right. So this one we use the hard rate view model and returns the process age back to the main activity so that the NAP can remember the next time you open the screen. Okay. So here we have the activities result API to pass back the data back and forth. So in here, as I mentioned before, you do need a new view model and you need a new activity class. Okay. All right, so some hints, right? How do we approach this? First, reuse your BMI screen from assignment 2. So you can go ahead and make a copy of assignment 2. Just go ahead and say, I want to duplicate this assignment, or right click on it and just duplicate it, copy it, okay? So that way you keep your assignment 2 working and save it somewhere. Or if not, you already turned it into D2L. All you have to do is download it from there if you need it. Go all the way back. Okay. Now from here, so we're going to keep the weight and the height input, calculate and the clear buttons. And now we're going to wire up that third button to open a new activity. So we're going to create a second activity, and this is the heart rate screen. Okay. And here we're going to have input age. We're going to have two view boxes, view text, not view boxes, view text, show max. So this is an edit text, and this is a view text, and this is another view text. And then we're going to add two buttons here, the calculate and the clear button. So that's your, when we think about it, this is your layout, okay? Then we have the intents. So we're going to be using intents and activity results APIs. So explicit intents in this case, right? Because we're going to say, calling this intent this, we're going to call the heart rate activity double colon class.java. And then to get the results back, we're going to register for the activity result method, okay? And then return the process age so the main activity can remember it. Now, as part of view models, remember they help you persist data. So you're going to have two view models in total. The first one is the BMI view model, which holds the weight, height, BMI category, again, part of your assignment 2. And now we're going to add a new view model. This is the heart rate view model, which holds age, maximum heart rate, and target range. So these are the values it's going to be holding, the data. And then add a last process age to remember across screens. So all you have to remember is that age to remember it across the screens. Okay, so going back and forth between the two screens. The formatting output, we have to use the decimal, this for BMI, and we have to use so decimal format to format for BMI, and then round to integer for whole numbers and heart rates. Okay, so that is something that we have to use here. And then finally, the clearing requirements. So clearing still counts as process, so sends result back, okay? So for the video, right, what are we supposed to record for that video to turn in? First, we have to show again, right, that BMI is still working. It shows the labels, correct category, it still clears, resets fields, right? Then we have to click on, when we click on the heart rate, we open that second screen. We enter the age, we press on the calculate, and then this should show the max and the target. And then you click on back to the first screen. So click on the back button and then open it again, and the age is pre-filled. So the max and target don't have to be persistent. Okay, but the age is definitely pre-filled. So when we also have to press the clear button on the second screen and the fields are cleared back to the screen, we open again, there should be no pre-fill. Okay. So the other thing is rotate both screens, so value persistent thanks to the view models. So those are the pretty much the video checklist. Okay. Any questions? No questions? Oh, wait, I see something in the chat. 1 second. All right, excellent. All right, so no questions. So then I'm going to go ahead and open up the geo quiz and kind of like talk about over the geo quiz. And then next week I'll have, where did my video go? Okay, so next week I will have some sample code for assignment 3. I do want you to give it a try and try it on your own and try to get to work. Um, so uh, I've been once in a while I get emails about how to open the GeoQuiz. So you haven't gone GeoQuiz to work, so you probably gave up. So this is what I'm going to do is I've just gone ahead and opened up the open and then the GeoQuiz. So I'm here, right? And the Gradle tried running, but it says it's incompatible. Okay. It says the minimum compatible version is 8.5. The max compatible Gradle version is 19. Or Gradle JVM version is 19. So the possible solutions are to upgrade and resync. Okay, so if you click on the 9, it probably won't work because of the app itself. So what we're going to do is upgrade to 8.5 and then resync. Okay. So we're just going to give it a minute. And you can go ahead and ignore this from right here because if you do, then it's going to break again. So one thing with Android development, Android Studio, Android development in general, is that the APG, the Gradle version, the JVM, there's so many different versions, and we have to check the compatibility between them. Okay. And so we need to find that sometimes that sweet spot because the code might be really old. The Android Studio version is really new. The like some of the components are newer than others, so we have to sometimes go back in compatibility, not use the most up-to-date versions. Okay, so right, going in here, talk about the manifest. So in the manifest, we added that activity. In our case, first thing you have to go do when you create that activity is go ahead and check to make sure that it was created, or if it wasn't created, sometimes I can't remember if it was created or not, but make sure that the activity to specify that you have that second activity is there. So in this case, it would be Android name and then the name of that activity. So let me actually even go before that. Okay. So in here, to create a new activity, go into new and then activity and then empty view activity. Okay. So once you do that, and I'll do it here. Let's say I want to do heart rate. Okay. Activity. That's what I'm going to call it. Heart rate activity. And you don't have to put activity, but you should. That way you're not confused with your view model or different, and you know what type of file this is. So this is an activity, okay? Make sure the generate layout file is there. Then we go ahead and do the layout name. Again, if you fill this in, this is going to be pre-filled out for you. The package name is going to be the same, and then Kotlin. And then when we press finish, you go into the resource file, the layout. Look at this. That layout was automatically created for us. And in here, that's where we're gonna, do the same thing that we've been doing with the main activity XML. We're just gonna be creating the buttons, the view, text views, and the edit text. Okay. Now I'm gonna go ahead and and then let's see, check out the Android manifest. So from after you did that, oh look, it actually filled it out for us. So previous versions it wouldn't do this. Apparently it's doing it now. So just make sure that it is there. Okay. And then the next thing that you have to do is again go in here and then new, and then in this case you could just do Kotlin Java class. So the reason why we did this, right, activity is so that it could go ahead and create that XML file for us. You could have done here and then created a class, and it should have been fine. Call it hard rate activity, and that was it, right? But it wouldn't have created this layout file. So that's why we go the other route, okay? But in here we can go ahead and do the hard rate view model. Okay. And now we have there. Okay. So same idea with the other view model that we had. Um, so that's how you get your files working. All right. Yeah. So let me go back to GeoQuiz. Now after we created this, okay. So in here, run this. And I want to show you the logs. Oh no. Okay. Issues were found. Checking. Okay, so in here, I think it's because I messed with it. So let me go ahead and delete this. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. So what's going on here is compatibility issues again. So it says dependency, this requires libraries and applications depend on compatible against version 36 or later on the APIs. And that's because I created the new ones. The app is currently compiled against Android 33. Also, the maximum compile SDK version for Android Gradle plugin is 8.1 or 8.1 is 33. So actually, let me see if I can go ahead and fix that here or if I'm going to owe you that. Okay. I think it's 12.1, the one that was working last time I checked. See, like, so that's like one of the issues that I find with Android, and you have to go to the developer to see what's compatible with what. So this was a very old, or this is a very old application, and because I created these new activities here, or the activity um, and the view model, which is on Android Studio, what is it, Narwhal edition or version. It's trying to pull in new libraries and uh, that are not compatible with the previous one. So I shouldn't have done this. It says minimum supported Gradle version is 8.13, current version is 8.5. So now everything's compatible. So let me see. I don't think I could just do. Yeah, so that's why my information, like my errors are changing. But that's what's breaking it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I don't want to take any more time. But don't edit it, just run it and explore it on your own. But it should work, and if it doesn't work, let me know and I will go ahead and like redo the whole thing. But all you have to do is download the app, run it this way, make sure it's 8.5, and then run it in its own. Don't add anything yet, or don't add anything else, or it will break like it did for me. Okay, but it's because of that compatibility issues with new components that we're adding that Android Studio does on its own. Okay. All right. Any questions? Nope. No questions. I'll stop the video here and wait a few minutes.